Boom, bada bing, come here for that.
I like our Pink Floyd album. That one, what, I don't know, it was a late 60s album. I think pretty early Pink Floyd that had that repeating image.
Oh, wow, that
Like
goes
mirrors
backwards.
and mirrors. And
Yeah, it goes back a ways. I'm thinking Time. Dark Side of the Moon was maybe one of the earliest.
No, this is like Adam Hart Mother or something.
Oh, wow, okay.
This is probably Sid Barrett, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Pre like what I might call pre-good Pink Floyd.
Yeah, back when David Gilmour. Yeah, no, you're right. It was a completely different band.
It was.
A little more acid, a little more LSD, I think. Yeah.
Well, if you listen,
Guma was
yes,
unique.
If you look at Rolling Stones, they were like almost bluegrass, country blues. They were
sure.
You would
Jethro Tull too. Yeah.
Yes.
Very R&B back then. Yep. Yeah, Jethro Tull, the Rolling Stones. Yeah, they all had that kind of.
Did you ever listen to Journey before Steve Perry? They had 3 albums before he showed up.
Really?
Oh, wow.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't commercially successful for some reasons.
Well, a lot of
But they were going to be a heavy metal band.
Basically. A lot of success stories are they just keep hitting it again and again and again.
Well, Jethro Tull was like that. They kept changing their band name so that their bad reputation wouldn't follow them.
Yep.
And they finally, the joke was they finally hit on I don't know, like a 16th century agrarian who invented the seed drill. Is who Jethro Tull is. Something.
Oh
like
my God,
that.
I didn't know that.
Who this. Yeah, I'm sticking with that. That's a story I'm telling myself. Now I can grok it.
Yeah, they kept changing it until they suddenly became popular, and they just stuck with whatever name it was.
Exactly. Yep.
This is the bunch that introduced me to the jazz flute. Jazz flute was not a thing. Yeah. So, guys, welcome. Publishing, we're on. We're good. Welcome to the roundup. Tim and John are here. Hey, guys, how you doing this week?
Doing good, man. Doing good.
Please,
Still trying to recover from
leadership conference, I think.
Oh, that was just Saturday morning. Yeah, Johanna Rothman spoke after me. Boy, it's like an hour after I did, and man, I would swear we coordinated our talks. It's pretty cool to hear her railing against some of the similar things. So yeah, and then the week before that I was in London not only with my adaptivist team, but spent some time with a good buddy John Turley, who you know, Daniel.
Yes,
he lives about 2 hours north of London, so I spent the weekend at their house. We had a nice time, and then the week for that was not London; it was Tampa, Florida, and John was with me, and we did a really cool. I should probably try to write this up sometime.
Yes,
an amazing 3.5-4 day session with 40 people from Special Operations Command. So
I saw the slide title. I'm like, oh, I would love to have been there for that.
Yeah, and just what we did and how we did it. In terms of basically they wanted an opinionated approach to software development. So okay, roger that. I got one. So it's pretty much John Kern's pragmatic way to develop software from a very holistic point of view.
There you go.
And it was, I used that toy program, the Game of Life, which is a simple 4 rules, how hard can it be kind of a thing. But basically took them through the way of doing development from the way I work with that toy project. And then we did one of theirs, like you all bring something tomorrow that's proves that this can also work in your weird data engineering analysis world, so that you don't feel like, well, what do we do now? Because normally I'm always a little leery of training in that you train them, but then they go to their world, and now what? So that's why I prefer mentoring and sticking with them for a while. But this was a compromise because there was like 40 people, so that's a lot.
Yeah.
But the debrief at the end of the week was things like, "Wow, we did more on our project yesterday than we've done in months."
Oh,
Or,
wow.
if we'd have used that, it would have saved us hundreds of hours of pointless meetings. Talking about this, that, and the other thing. So there was a lot of eye-opening and actual. It's not that hard. I mean, it's not that
Right.
complicated. It's pretty simple what I preach, but it's not easy to do.
No.
It's hard. But anyway, that was really astounding results. We worked hard to make it what we would call, from Michael Hammond's world, a vertically facilitated event. Get them into establish
Yes.
that there's enough safety, so to speak, that it's think of it as a crucible that we can hold ourselves in, apply some heat, make them disorienting dilemmas to get them just at the edge of their developmental capabilities to help crack them into some growth and learning. And it was fun because there's one woman that was just fantastic, where skeptical at first, then got glimpses of it, like, oh, this will work, then skeptical again, and then finally, yeah, this is amazing. I can see it now. And so anyway, I spoke far too long on my
No,
what
it's
I do,
good stuff.
but it was really cool.
Mr. Tim, what have you been up to? Get the mute off. Need to turn off the mute.
That should help just a little bit. Well, in addition to some playing with websites and a lot of interviewing, I've decided to go ahead and start making a mini book. So I'm working on my mini book.
Ooh, wow.
Okay.
What kind of, are you using some special tools or anything you want to reveal?
Oh, I'm going through LeanPub right now, so it's all being written in Markdown the way they do, and
Oh, okay.
going through GitHub, and
Oh, nice.
it's kind of fun. So basically, people were talking about how they don't want clean code, and it's like, well, okay, that's fine, as you like. And then they talk about the naming area of it, which I wrote the naming chapter, so fine. So I said, do you think that there would be any interest if I made a small mini book about naming classes and modules and functions and variables?
Okay.
And that sunk in. So it looks like I'm going to make a mini book of all the things that I've done and all the blogs and places about such things. So I'm going to scribble together a mini book and sell it on LeanPub.
Cool.
It's helpful. And so it's divorced from whatever else people, are upset by.
Happy
like it.
to review it if you want ahead of time, but don't put me on the critical path.
Okay. Sounds fair.
Because, I would often talk about, we would sometimes, it's worth having, maybe just shy of a knockdown, drag out fight about naming a class. Like, I think I've done that before. So,
Oh, my God.
naming
Wow.
is important.
Yeah.
Anyway, how about you, Daniel?
I have not gotten any fights about naming classes. No, it's been all grandbaby all the time this week. I went to Connecticut a while back, and little Rory, my only granddaughter, turns 1, and so we had a party, and she now knows how to say hi. So about every about every 5 seconds. Hi. Hi. Yeah, we get a lot of highs. A lot of highs. She knows other words. She got uh-oh and cool and mama, but when she says hi, people react no matter what, right? So she meet a stranger and say hi and they'll react. So she's got that down.
Yeah, it's good feedback.
Yeah. I was working on
First thing
kind
they
of
learn is how to get attention.
how to what?
How to get attention is the first thing they learn.
That is correct. You're absolutely correct.
It's an
And
important survival skill, that.
I joked with them. I used to did a presentation on backlogs, and one of the things I talked about was one of the mistakes we make is trying to add a bunch of language and description around what we want, and thinking that the language will somehow take the place of the conversation, that we get exactly what we like. that's not the way language works. Actually, you end up making it more and more vague the more language you throw at it. But I use an example, a scene from The Wire, where they only use the F word. And they managed to get the whole scene done. They're like investigating a crime, and they're both using that word over and over again. And at the end, the audience knows what happened. They're aware of the change in this. It's a wonderful scene. They didn't need any. And so the baby is actually the Disney version, because she uses hi for everything. Drop something, hi. And then, you come in the door, hi. It's a universal word right now for her, and it's working very well.
That's funny.
There is a parallel. I notice adults in Great Britain often will say hello as an expression of surprise, not as a greeting.
Ooh, I like that.
Oh. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
Who knew?
Hello.
Oh, hello. I didn't mean that kind of hello.
What was it? The Irish always sound like they're having a question. No matter what they say, it's always, and it's like, I'm going to the store. So it always ends on an uptick, as if they're asking a question.
Is that the way of saying over?
I don't know. There's the word for that. I love languages, and I love dialects. And one of the cool things about being up here is what they call the Rotaric R. And you guys, I know you're familiar with this when you're in Boston or New England. I don't know. There was some natural disaster in times past where the R's were all lost somewhere. I don't know. Maybe it's a schoolhouse. The R fell off, but they went away. I don't know what happened to them. So they don't have any R's. I'm going to bring some next time we come. You might want to pitch in for. But yeah, I love idioms. I love language, and it's so cool because, for instance, my daughter-in-law's father was saying something about had some con that fell into the yard off a truck, some cons. And I thought maybe there's a criminal enterprise where the con would fall off, but he was saying corn, and I had to repeat it because it.
Can you spell that, please?
Yeah, it was cool stuff. I'm appreciative of differences in people, languages, and I love that. I love idioms, so I'm a sucker for dialects. I could stay up here and wander around for a long time.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
You would love living in the UK then.
I
It
would.
changes about every 50 miles.
Yes, yeah, I've heard that, and actually, I am starting a new course, the Language Families of the World, and one of the first lessons he talks about. There's a place, I think it's in England, where it is the dialect is so bizarre, it's almost completely unintelligible as English.
Well, there are a couple.
Glaswegians, maybe, or no?
That's tough in Scotland, but actually, West Country Yap is the hardest one.
Oh wow!
And then maybe
That's
some
pretty weird. But West Country Yap, it's a very country accent, and they make fun of it on some of the movies because somebody will be like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah," and everybody's like, "Oh yes, absolutely." Around the corner to the left, yeah, yeah, welcome.
Well, that's beyond my kin. Like
good, Tim.
beyond your kin. Yeah, it's good. He's got a good one. Yes, that's not bad. Yeah. Yeah, I have the Scots-Irish history as long with Tim, so we get that honest. But, we went to Australia, and I have a heck of a time imitating. I can imitate the Scots and Irish and Southerners and New Englanders, but for the Australians, they say great, mate. And so it's like their eyes are way up here. And it's just, I don't know, I just find that really odd. Coming from the South, it's just the opposite A. We've got the really bah, and they've got the wide open A. So I just can't do that one.
You might enjoy being in New Zealand because you don't know which vowels they're going to replace and which ones they keep the same. So the same sound may sometimes be an I, sometimes be an A, or sometimes be a U. So New Zealand, sometimes and sometimes it's other things. It's just all kinds of. It's just unique. I can't do it.
One of the things people
I
complain about English spelling, and one of the things you learn is that the reason one of the many reasons Vikings come to mind right off. Then there was the Romans, but really strange reasons the spellings are so bad is that once they picked up Latin in the Middle Ages, they thought, well, gosh, we're actually a child of Latin. We should go back and use the Latin spelling on these words. Not what we pronounce it like, which would make sense, but pull off the Latin stuff and spell the English word as if it were a Latin word. And so you end up with all this stuff. It doesn't work. People are like, why?
Oh.
It seemed smart at the time. It was really smart. It seemed really good.
So like color with an OU.
OU.
Is that what you mean? Like color?
Yes. Yeah, one of the things that the French had a big thing. What is the thing? If you're going to a bar or going to a farmyard and you're eating the animals, you're using the French word. But if you're tending to the animals, you're using the Old English word. So it's bovine or cow, right? Pork or pig. Pig. Yeah, pig is the pig is the old word, English word. The double G's give it away, and then pork would be the French word. Yes, it's cool. It's cool stuff because by writing down the language, what you actually end up doing is freezing it in place. And so we think of language as being like stuff on a page. That's very like 0.01% of language. And actually, once you start writing language down, it's becomes something else, almost like sort of a commandments or standardized whatever. And that's why English has 500-600 years of history. And that's why we started studying language using English, because we have all this history. But most languages, you live in a separate village for 100 years apart from each other, and you're speaking different dialect.
New Orleans.
New Orleans. Well, I thought immediately of the Quebecois and the Arcadians, Cajuns. Yep. So yeah, if you want to get somebody mad, you tell somebody from France that they speak French in Quebec.
Yeah.
They're
pretty snobby about their French.
Oh my gosh.
And Quebecois is not French.
No, and Quebecois is not Acadian or Cajun either. That's a whole. They're like it's like the hype guys are the French guys. Then we got the Quebecois, which are kind of the relatives who didn't go to school. Maybe they're. And then like there's the new people in New Orleans, which are like, like the knuckle dragging cave people. They're just a hybrid mix of everything.
You need a subtitle.
Sometimes we get things, it's isolation, right?
Yes.
So I'm told that the Quebec French is 1700s French, roughly unchanged, and that if you get into Appalachia, that is the way English was pronounced in England in the 14, 15, 1600s.
I've heard that too, yes. That the Appalachian English is because the English in England started changing. Yeah, it changed after that. Fun fact, if you go to inner city and listen to black people talk, a lot of the way they talk comes from the Irish, because the Irish were hired as slave masters in the South. And so they would pick up their first English words from some poor schmuck from Ireland who couldn't speak. Well, they wouldn't say he could speak English anyway. If you were reading. So it's like the game of telephone. It's this one moves to that one, moves to this one, moves to that one. And so these fascinating, really, really cool stuff. There's an original language called Paleo-Indo-European, PIE, and nobody knows what it is, but we know there was a language. And we know hundreds of words in that language. And the reason why is just like you could look at a dolphin and a tiger, maybe a bear, and say, well, at some point maybe there's some kind of furry thing that lived in a hole that was apparent. They can look at all the modern languages in Europe and say, well, at some point there was a language that's the father of all that, and that's they know the language that nobody's spoken in 20,000 years.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So first story is about what we got here?
Smartphone cameras and the color.
Tim, didn't we do that last time? Am I correct in that?
I believe we did.
Okay.
I believe we already covered that one.
We did. There's another story there along. I apologize, John. We have misled you. The next one is the universe is foldable. I'll just throw that out there, just so it's a new story. So, as I understand this story, they proved that subatomic particles, quantum physics, works in such a way as if it were a piece of paper being folded.
Oh, so you can't do it more than 8 times?
Well, I don't know how many times you can do it, but the point being is that it would, up until now, it was math, like, oh, this is a probability wave that intersects this or whatever. But now they're like, no, underneath it all, there is a sheet of something, or effectively a sheet, a two-dimensional space that is being folded to create the reality, which is the holographic principle, which is, so reality is two-dimensional. So it's like, wow, cool stuff. Yeah, the holographic principle was that, this was 40, 50 years old, that somebody proved that the universe, even though we see it in 3 and 4 dimensions, contains no more information than it would be if it were contained on a two-dimensional surface. It didn't say what that surface was or any of that, but it just said that, hey, area, the volume of a space, actually, amount of stuff increases with the area of the sphere, not the volume of the sphere, which is counterintuitive.
I like the amplituhedron.
Amplituhedron, yes. So the thing, the rule here is that the universe is geometric. That it's not as mathematical as we thought, and it's much more geometric. Now, what that really means in reality, I don't know. Maybe like we'll start giving like people like paper airplanes and stuff to study physics. I don't know. Beats me. I just know it's cool. Yeah, they didn't teach it that way when I was in school. What I know, and so that's what I thought was interesting.
Next, you knew origami is all about amplituhedrons.
Amplituhedrons, that is correct.
No, the not a bad phrase is, God is the ultimate mathematician, and we're, we're, who knows if we're catching up or learning, but yeah, there's a lot out there.
Well, yeah, the thing is that Stephen Wolfram is like this guy who he will tell you, he'll be the first person to tell you that he is a genius, which doesn't make him a very popular guy. But he won the MacArthur Prize, won a bunch of stuff, created Mathematica, runs a software company. He's been saying for some time, and I have his book, New Kind of Science, which is that the universe is some derivative of the game of life. Where instead of like the little things multiply like this, like on the screen, you're actually making little nodes in like a tree, randomly rejoining nodes. And so this geometry thing really is saying that, we're talking whatever it is, it's equivalent to a two-dimensional B tree or whatever reality will consist of. So it's pretty cool stuff. See what we got next year. Oh yeah, next we got the 12 theses. I found this was excellent. Great lessons learned from one of the founders of Wikipedia. And a lot of this is like what went wrong with Wikipedia from somebody who was there. And I
it's surprisingly open. Yeah. I wonder if Elon will hire him. For his whatever Rockopedia, whatever the hell he's making.
Yeah, actually, he contacted this guy to ask him what he thought about like taking Twitter. That was one of the conversations. What do you think I should about buying Twitter? And I was like, oh, maybe you should. Sure, I got a couple $1 billion lying around. I just don't buy Twitter. Yeah, I think
it's funny that I was going to say the first one, Consensus, the extreme version that I was exposed to when our kids went to Quaker school is there's something called, like, you can Google it. You can probably find it on Wikipedia, Quaker consensus. Quaker process is about arriving at a consensus, except it's extremely arduous.
Oh, yes, I've heard about something like, don't they have the quiet rooms?
There is a little bit like the absurdity that all 17, the co-authors of the manifesto, like that photo that I took when we're standing at the board. I'm a nut about wordsmithing, and but we all agreed to there was consensus, Quaker consensus. We all agreed to the wording.
Sure.
At least the 4 bullets, and that's hard. So yeah, consensus is especially, it has its place. But like that whole, the quote about the like kind of like the science is settled and however many scientists agree about global warming, whatever that, I mean, I can find it.
Yeah.
There's that, there's a percentage. Somebody states a percentage, like 90 some percent. I should find it.
Yeah.
Like, could agree that, which is consensus, that, global warming is real, whatever the hell it is. I actually found the root of that.
Huh.
And I have a screenshot of it because it was in a book that was ostensibly a book about, I forget what the book, but it came in front of the school board and I rejected the book, like, over my dead body.
Oh my goodness.
Because I was like, this is ridiculously biased and dripping. It should have been a political science book. And it was supposed to be like I don't know, geography or geology. I don't even remember what it was about. Other than, lo and behold, that's where this quote came from. And it was a silly percentage of scientists that have published on the topic, or some like
right.
When you actually read the details of what percentage meant. Well, I was like, oh wow, really? That's really what this is from? This stupid quote that every freaking political junkie uses.
Yeah, I think instead of attacking it because you're going to go into the topical matter pretty quickly, I think it's interesting to go back to the Enlightenment. And the Enlightenment was, before the Enlightenment, we had a guy, and the guy was either the emperor or he was the pope. And that guy would tell you what the reality was. Okay? So if you want to see what the lights in the sky are, well, that's God, Jupiter, and Saturn, and or the Pope would tell you, well, this is the firmament of the heavens that the earth is the center of, and he would know what everything was. And they didn't see much point in science because everything had been discovered, and they already had a guy to go to give them the answers. Beautiful thing. Well, then the Enlightenment came along with the Protestant Reformation, and the purpose of the Enlightenment was people should be able to reason on their own to do things to make their lives happy, as long as they don't hurt other people. Which kind of sounds like common sense, but it was a crazy, weird liberal. It was a catastrophic idea. The existing power structure hated it because they correctly predicted that there would be massive religious wars and destruction, and everybody believed something different, and they were right. And we had the Ptolemaic theory of the stars with the circles inside the circles and Earth at the center, and that Copernicus came along and changed that. Well, see, what people think is that somehow we learned something, and what we actually learned is that we set up social definitions that are self-consistent for a certain problem domain. And they're not self-consistent across all domains. That's a ridiculous idea. So, the Ptolemaic Summit, using little circles to track the planets movement, that still worked. You could still be like a Catholic person or just whatever priest and use that old system. That wasn't a wrong system. It just used a whole bunch of terms and systems that ended up not scaling down the road, and there's all these other, but it wasn't broken. It's just weird words. And, the guy who said that, the clouds get dark and warm air comes in and Thor casts his lightning bolts on people or whatever, you still got storms. Yeah, just, it was the same thing we're looking at, right?
Explanation is a little, yeah.
Yeah, and so what you find, I think that a lot of times, and I'll say conservatives, but cranky old dudes like me will overstate the case by making it to be like, well, we were wrong then, we're right now. Or, they thought it was going to be like this, but they were all wrong because they were a bunch of pointy heads. That's not the way things work. What happens is you don't see what you don't see. And so if you look at some of these failures in predictions, almost every dang one of them is a guy taking a delimited domain of knowledge, creating some sort of trajectory around it, fish in a pond, production of silver, whatever. Take anything, any domain of knowledge, run a projection curve, and it runs off the graph, whatever it is, because you can't do things infinitely. That's just nothing works like that. And then looking back on it, it wasn't that the guy was ever wrong. It was that there's a bigger domain or a cross-cutting domain that he did not consider as part of his projection. So, to say that consensus is right or wrong, I think misses the value that a group of scientists studying one field brings to the table.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like, yeah, from a phrase in physics is frame of reference. You know, like I'm not moving right now. Oh, yes, you are. If I look, you know, like I'm on the outside of an 8,000, you know, an 8,000 mile diameter thing going whatever the 24 hours, right? That, yeah, I'm actually moving pretty fast. Or
Yes.
looking at it going around the sun, I'm really moving.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, but you're right. There's a frame of reference
Yes.
for
That was
consensus. Yeah.
that was a long way to say all models are wrong, but some are useful.
Yes, that's another good one.
Right. Yeah. I think
And
the trick
when
is
you
knowing
tend to
how they're
find
wrong.
a more useful model, the spheres thing just got really complicated, and elliptical orbits were much easier, and the Earth-centered universe was just hard to explain, but it made a lot more sense if you go to the sun, and then later on, it's like, well, that didn't make sense either. The sun is also revolving, and other things are turning as well. But you use a
Well,
model that's going
it's
to get
not
you
that it didn't
through
make
and explain
Tim.
it.
It's not that it didn't make sense. It's that it got using some convoluted system gotten more and more complicated over time. Whereas if you used fewer Occam's razor, fewer terms, you could actually get the same results. And as you found new stuff, I mean that's the goal.
Well, the spheres eventually it was too hard to calculate the
Yes,
locations of the stars,
too many
and that was,
terms.
of course, an important thing when everybody was living by celestial navigation and all. So there's a whole bunch of things they had to work with, and they just needed a better model. It wasn't that the first one didn't make sense or wasn't good; it was good until it wasn't,
No, I'm not, I
right?
disagree.
And
I disagree with you. I think it's an important point here. The problem with models is not that they're all wrong because they are. You're correct. They're all wrong. The problem is that with any solution that you're trying to determine, the goal of an analyst should be to provide the minimum number of interrelatable terms for that solution, and that those terms have no obligation to relate to other things in other problem domains. And I know I'm sounding long-winded, but there's an important difference. You're not building a better model. You're building a simpler model that applies in more situations. The guy who couldn't see, I don't know, the far away planet Jupiter or Neptune or whatever, he's still as happy as he was before. He doesn't need the new model. He's fine. There's nothing in his world of experience that would require him to go to Copernicus or whatever. He's got his spheres and he can calculate pretty good. But at some point, it's not that we redid the model. We just said, here is a fewer number of terms that give us the same thing here, but we can also use it in more places. And
that's actually not historically correct, though. It actually did go against observational criteria. So the people who needed to track the stars, as opposed to the farmers and the plow makers and the blacksmith, most of us didn't need it. So
right,
it has a amount of sophistication that's not necessary to us, and we can't see the flaws in it because we're so far away.
but it
But they
doesn't.
actually did fail the observational, um, as far as it didn't the evidence, the observational evidence was flawed. It actually was a flawed system.
Well,
And
no,
then
you're not.
when they
But see, no, you're
transformed,
not.
they
No, you're
became
saying
much more
a different
predictable.
point, Dave. You're making a different point. We're always making observations of systems that the models are incorrect. So you're not telling me anything that doesn't apply to any model. Okay, the question is, what do we do with that? Right? Do we make a new model with new terms, or do we? We're doing the same thing with gravity right now,
Yeah, and we should.
and we
That makes
should. Right?
sense.
It doesn't mean gravity's broken. Right? It doesn't mean that we're like the
No,
farmers who think that the
but our theory
sky
makes sense.
god comes or whatever. It just means that this is kind of covers most of what we have the simplest way we can, and this is
Which
the
I
old
think, by the
question.
way, kind of comes down to it. It's not that gravity is broken, but our understanding of it is a bit broken, and it only matters to people who need to base their research and the livelihood and predictions on it. And to the rest of us, if I drop my coffee, it will spill on the floor or my lap,
Yes,
depending on
that's
which is
correct.
closest.
But there are
And that's
our
fine,
it's not our
but it's
understanding of gravity; it's our definition of the term gravity. It's gone from drop something, it falls down to Newton's law. Now we got general relativity. Now we've got quantum gravitons. It's the same word gravity. We're redefining as we go along, pretending as if somehow it was the same word all along, and it's not.
it's a different understanding of it as we progress, and sometimes that understanding is helpful for people It's like you and I know what good software looks like, but frankly, your dentist probably doesn't. They know what
Right.
the user
Right.
interface looks
Right.
like, and the subtleties of what's good or bad behind the scenes is not important to him. His model doesn't need to include that. But yours
Correct,
and
correct.
mine do.
But that's the question. See, that is the cool part of this. What I'm
There you
saying
go.
here is that you're asking the question: what am I doing? What do I need to do that I need this model for?
Yes.
So the dentist
Correct.
doesn't
The
have a model of
context.
good software, but the dentist probably has a model of paying a business person to do work on his system. And what you're trying to tell him is like, look, my model of good software will actually have you pay less and less maintenance or whatever. And he just kind of generally waves his hand. He's good, fine. That's his model as well. He doesn't have to learn clean coding. You guys are fine. Go run along. But then if those models
And we don't need to
diverge,
know the difference. Yeah.
the
And we
models
don't know
diverge.
need to know the difference between the different varieties and mixes of filling material
Exactly.
and why you would use a 9 versus 11 versus 14. But again, it does make a difference, and having that be accurate enough for the use is pretty.
Yes, but what you have to see that I think the goal here is humility, right? So if you're the guy who's building brick or stone or wood or whatever, you really shouldn't be giving the dentist advice on like dental tools. Hey, I see this
Yeah.
dental tool's made of metal. Well, I use metal. I know it's the same word. I got it, and you're using it as it, but that guy lives in a world full of dentists who do things differently, and they have dentist words. And the word metal crosses those domains, but he doesn't really need a metal pick. He probably needs something that's non-ferrous and blah, 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 hardness or whatever. And you guys aren't really talking about the same thing at all.
Which is fun because now go back to consensus, and so the consensus among genetic researchers is probably best for genetic research, but the
Yes.
same consensus might not be the best for general surgery or for
Yes.
various other events.
Yes. And the
So
goal of the programmer, we have the cool job because we cross those guys.
yeah, so it's consensus is important, but you have to be a consensus among whom and for which purpose.
You have to have an executable, testable behavior. Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. Consent is still good. I can just decide to let the expert know if we're burning the earth down or
Yes.
not, and trust that they do that.
Right.
But if I'm going to go and calculate it for myself, I'm going to have, a better model that's more predictive and measurable.
Well, we
So it
continue
depends
to
on
make the
where
same mistake. We haven't changed any way whatsoever. We would go ask the priest, what's a sin or what's a good thing or bad thing. He would tell us, and I guess he was right. Then we'd ask him why are there lights in the heaven? He would tell us, and I guess he's right. Every priest I know tells us the same thing. So it's not as if we've suddenly grown this behavior out of it. We've been doing this all along. Whatever we're an expert in, we tend to think we're an expert in more things than we actually are. This just seems the way we are.
So it is interesting because consensus, as he applies it, is an interesting problem, right? Because you have a consensus among a particular audience that is fairly homogenous, and that does cut out a lot of other ideas that might have been equally useful to different people in different audience.
Right. And I think we overconstrain our solutions as well. What I see in software development, I know you guys do too, is that by the time we add in all these hidden assumptions that we're not talking about explicitly, we've actually narrowed down the world of things we might be doing to some tiny little thing here or there, and we shoot ourselves in the foot that way. Yeah, guys will tell you that we should be using Docker. The consensus is we should be using Docker. It's like, oh no.
It's a pattern, though, that it's a solution in a context.
Yes. Yeah, it is. It's definitely a pattern. And I think that it's a TDD pattern. It's the beauty of the whole thing is that we somehow, as dummy programmers, have stumbled on the answer to this without really knowing anything of anything. Maybe because we're so stupid, we don't know any of the domains we walk into. So we're like, okay, well, what test actually has to pass here? Write this down, okay? Then if I get that test, am I okay? I am good. Now I will work around that test, and that works everywhere. It has nothing to do with software development. It works in physics. It works in whatever your thing is. If you can describe the test, then you can reach consensus. What we find, I think, I'm going to switch over to John's side a little bit here, is that we reach consensus about things that don't matter because there's no test. Yeah, apple pie, pretty good flavor. Okay, I'll sign up for that. I'm all aboard for that. And then suddenly it's like scientists announce apples or the key to humanity or whatever. Wait a minute, hang on. There's a lot of space there.
Apple crisp is good. Yeah. We had some last night.
Yeah, I think back to the wiki story. I think what he's seeing here, my view of this is I love the Wikipedia idea. I still love it, but people become, I want to say cliquish, but I don't want to use prejudicial terms because I think this is universal behavior. People will form social groups that have their definitions that they feel like reinforcing are very important, and so they'll see things through those definitions, and it excludes other things that may be quite valuable that they just don't even consider like doing, and it makes it dumb. Over time, it makes systems dumb.
There's a fun little point to play with is memeological evolution, right? So there's you get a few million programmers working to beat the band, right? And then somebody says, I don't really believe that that's the right way to do things. I'm doing it a different way. And so that meme suddenly gets a new variant. And that variant, it may be perfectly good and die out, but eventually a variant like that will take hold and find an audience and take root. And then now we've got multiple variants. And
each one of those having the same kind of problems. They're just different problems. Like that guy was so right. We do that all the time now. No, wait a minute. This has a bunch of other problems we're not talking about.
Yeah, and maybe the field evolves because there are enough variants that die off. And the ones that keep working seem to be good for a while, maybe not forever. Yeah, the test thing. What do we do when the tests are fuzzy now? Because now everybody's working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're living this right now, big time. Yeah. Does AI code? If it doesn't write programs, but it writes programs that do things, is that programming? Is the word programming still mean the same thing?
And but what is I should give it this prompt, I should get that result. Well, no, you should get a result that's essentially the same as that result, but different.
Yes.
It shouldn't be, it doesn't work well if you want to actually make it deterministic. Then it's an if-then-else tree. Yes. It's no longer a pattern matcher.
So I kid you not, I read about philosophy science going to physics seminar, and the issue was, should we have testable physics theories? And they were like, yes. Without a testable physics theory, you just got a club for like people who know calculus. It's not. There's nothing there. But yeah, it sucks when you got to pass a test because sometimes you don't do it. You predict where that eclipse is going to be, and you're wrong. They don't like you anymore.
That's an easy prediction.
That turned out to be, finding Mercury was not easy. Planet Vulcan did not turn out where it was supposed to be.
Well, the next few are pretty cool. Hopefully, they don't talk that much about them, but the next in the article, the enable competing articles.
Yes,
that's one way to get rid of consensus. You know what? Let someone else write something that they think. Naming of classes.
Sure.
Competing articles.
Wouldn't it be nice if there was a framing at the heading?
Have you guys seen Qualo? I think it's Qualio. I know. There's a online app that provides a user interface for disagreeing. It's cool. It's an argument mapping app where you make a point, somebody makes a counterpoint, and it starts mapping the relationship between the arguments without actually taking sides.
Well, that's wild.
I will find this. Yes, it was a pretty cool idea. Unfortunately, it's not popular because who the heck wants to agree on stuff online? I mean, I'm not joking. It was just dull.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, these are all good, and like you're right. I ran it again. I'm sorry, but these are all good. You check them out. They're all lessons learned the hard way. The source back. I saw some of this real time around the 2000s, where they would go like, "Well, you're not going to go to CNN, are you? Because that source is bad." And at that time, I was like, "You can't have an organization with 1,000 people all free to say different things that every time is bad. It's the math on that doesn't work out. At some point, somebody has to be correct." So yeah, a lot of this is just stuff they learned the hard way.
Would that be the blind squirrel theory?
Yes, that's correct. Or the blind. I like the blind pig. You're correct. Same thing. Yeah, a broken clock. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. I think that Thomas Sowell had a book, Difference of Visions. He made the point that many times that conservatives are correct about things, but they don't know why. They just make up kind of stupid reasons, religion or whatever, why. But they're actually right about it. They just can't tell you why. So it's like, yeah, at some point you do find the acorn, and if you're the squirrel that finds acorns, you're a living squirrel, which means you get to have new squirrels. But, if you come up with some theory of, squirrel gods or whatever, giant acorns in the sky, it's just, nobody cares, but you're still the guy finding acorns. So, yeah, good stuff. So, cool stuff. And then the last one, real quick, and this is also a big one, is, proposed constitutional amendments that didn't work out. And I just thought this was like sort of a tour of, sounded pretty good at the time. Things, stuff like
Yeah, they're interesting.
The size of House of Representatives was set right away. I think that was probably a mistake. What else we got here? Changed the country's name to just America. America.
Right. That would have pissed off the Canadians.
And the Mexicans in the South. Yeah, that would have.
I like that they refer to that as appropriation of the continent name.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
And they getting rid of the presidency. There's like a tribunal idea that I think the Romans tried for a while as well. In-term limits.
Yeah, that's not a good idea.
Oh, most of these sound good, but I would never. I hate to live in a world with them. The president by lottery. That sounds kind of wild.
That would be a good test of the checks and balances. If you can randomly select a president from the population, and then they're president for 3 years or 2 years or whatever for, of course, admittedly, they're just getting good at it by the second year, probably. But if it really has good checks and balances, and the president can't do anything that would destroy the country because they need the support of the other two legs.
Yes.
Right.
And if you're going to throw in people who are absolutely unqualified, as we often do, then you probably should make sure you have a good set of checks and balances.
Yes. And I think oddly enough, by electing by popular vote, instead of the way we used to it, by each state sending the electors directly, popular vote is really changed the presidency into a job that you have to be good at getting people to vote for you, which is not the same as a job that you're a good president. It's not the same at all, really. It's a different.
No.
Yeah, well, I think
idiocracy.
that's fun.
The vice president. Got to get rid of the vice presidency.
Yeah,
Who would be in charge of vice?
Yeah, well, the thing is, somebody called the vice president a job is like having a warm bucket of spit. Yeah, I don't think he did like the job. He was one of the vice presidents who was not a fan of the job. Add more vice presidents.
It's like built in. What's the phrase in modern business? To have the sense of being able to maintain. When someone
Secession.
Continuity.
Yes, secession.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ability to continue on because you got somebody in the wings, so to speak. So yeah, that kind of
I,
makes sense. So yeah,
I,
getting rid of that is
yeah.
awesome.
Oh, the VP idea, and maybe they should go back to where they elect them separately. But people, I find that a lot of the mistakes, in my mind at least, were things that, well, we did something wrong, so let's just let the people decide. And almost every time, it's awesome because the people think it's awesome right away, and it just kind of falls into a bunch of, you know, it's not good.
Yeah, I wonder what it was like back 100 years ago specifically, give or take, like especially in the Woodrow Wilson years, like what it was like for so many of those amendments. And could we do amendments, easily now? Because like the one especially where senators became direct elected, I think sucked more power
Yes.
into Washington,
Well,
made
yeah.
the federal government strong.
Well, it's not just it's a power thing. Yeah, there's no job. There's no senator anymore. It really killed the senate job of the senator. Job of senator does no longer exist anymore.
And it's easy to, I think it's easier to lobby, because before, I think the senators were elected by, let's say, all of Pennsylvania's state legislatures. So
Yes, correct.
good luck, influencing, the hundreds of people versus all I got to do is kind of influence, one or two very powerful. So yeah, so I think that was a huge change in the centering too much power into the federal government.
It was Illinois, oddly enough.
What was that like? Yeah, I wonder what that was like.
Illinois. They lost a senator in 1890, and then it was discovered that the governor was auctioning off the spot for the job. And everybody's like, "Oh, we can't do that. We need to directly elect them."
I suppose that the strategy is you find the worst vice president imaginable, and that guarantees that nobody assassinates the president to the last thing they want.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, it's like
right, there's strategy.
But yeah, I think that the point people, I get this. A lot of this goes back to basic civics. Like America's not a democracy; it's a representative republic. So the goal isn't for everybody to get together and decide on stuff. That would be stupid. It would be chaos. The goal is to have one bunch of people we call representatives live down the street, go down and yell at them when they do something wrong. Got another bunch of people we call those the Senate. And they're like the old timer dudes who are not going to do anything useful in life, and we send them just don't screw things. Keep the kids from screwing things up, okay? And if I see my senator on TV, he's not working. He's not doing his job anymore, because his job is supposed to keep the lights on, things, the structure, the architect, the structure working, the CICD process of government fine. He's got nothing to do with appearing on TV telling me about what Bulgaria or something. The job, they got rid of the whole job. So.
Yeah,
some of this says, some of it's interesting.
Flawless Senate.
A court that could overrule even the Supreme Court. That would be like the extra, super supreme.
Yeah.
You have to rename it the penultimate court.
Penultimate court, yes. It sounds like something a 10-year-old will do. Well, my court will actually be bigger than that court. No, I've got to do it.
Right.
So you guys have been reading any books or watching good TV shows, anything like that this week?
I'm still on Skunkworks, which is still crazy stories, because it's the whole SR-71 and the U-2 and, wild stuff that the U-2 could do back in the 60s, in freaking sane.
Yeah.
What do you mean you can read? You can see that somebody was taking a dump at the Cuban Missile facility.
Yeah.
Because Kennedy was like, "Are you sure are they just fake or are they really working?" No, sir. Look at this photo. They're really working. These are workers literally sitting taking a dump, reading something. Are you shitting me? No,
that's him. He's the one that we got his picture. Yeah.
But at that time frame, they could fly over and use that crazy Kodak strip film that, like really huge, and get that level of accuracy from, 60, 70,000 feet. Unfreaking believable.
Yeah. And they did that.
Anyway, that's what
The Keyhole satellites actually took pictures using film and then dropped the film into the atmosphere to be developed, which I remember hearing that. Yeah, that's just crazy.
That's wild.
Yeah, very crazy. Yeah. Mr. Tim?
Oh, this is a monster movie month, so all of my viewing has been a lot of 50s sci-fi and 70s sci-fi and whatever, comedy monster things. I picked up my Kindle, and I noticed that I had finished the first chapter of The Sacredness of Secular Work. It's like, really? I've only done one chapter? So now I'm putting the spurs on, and I have to go actually read this. I fed you a link to a book about the origin of American English that I thought you would find interesting.
Cool.
I think I put it in the...
I'll check that out. Thank you. Yeah, Melissa and I were talking about that on the way up here about, I've become more of a serial killer when it comes to like reading. Like, I'll buy a book because I like it, but then if I don't read it, I'm not going to like feel bad about it. Now, bailing out in a book, that's still, I don't know. I started, it's like you feel like you let the guy down, and that's tough.
I find that if I read, I can have 7 books and read a chapter of each one every now and then, but it does take a long time to finish anything. So I think I'm in the mood to get some things, stop starting and start finishing.
I think there's a phrase for that. Oh, yeah, you just said it.
I still have book guilt. I have a lot of book guilt. And John, I've talked about it. You started on you did the thing with wasn't the adaptive organizations, or that went for a while.
Yeah, action launch. Yeah, something like, you're right.
Yeah.
I gave up on it because it started getting really PhD level.
You gotta.
Like,
you gotta.
You don't need to know it that much.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like I'm okay with not starting. But for some reason, once I make the decision to start, it's like, we're in it now. Okay, it's like me and the guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an odd thing. Yeah. And I will say, at some point, maybe I'll figure out how to post about it. But I've been doing Replit.com, which is, you may have heard of it.
Oh, yeah. They're the guys who do the programming stuff.
Yes. Unfreaking believable. On the way to Tampa, on the airplane, I pulled up Replit and I built the game of life.
Oh, cool!
I got an hour of Wi-Fi, so I did it in less than an hour. Because I watched a video, then I was like, let me try this. So, and now with my buddy, we're building something on the side. Over the weekend we put up a couple of proof of concepts and much more complex system that's really wild. It's insane what this thing will do.
I've heard great things about it. I've not tried it, but I've heard really, because it's got like 80 different. It's amazing, right? It's got all kinds of different languages and platforms, and it's.
Yeah, I don't think it has a ton. You can coerce it to do things, but if like Game of Life, I'm like, let me just try this. I don't care what language is in. I don't know if, it's okay. It's TypeScript,
right? Yeah,
whatever. Don't care. And with like our knowledge of how to, like, no, dude, your grid. When I click it, it like suddenly selects all to where I clicked. Like, no, you're still not clicking single, right? You had to like, all right. This is enough messing around. I'm gonna tell you a failing test. So,
okay, cool.
Like, it was funny to because I could see it. It freaking tests itself, and you could see it going, no, look, the number of cells selected is only 1. Yeah, but dude, your UI is selecting them all. There's something wrong, right?
Oh, wow.
It's pretty funny that you can treat it as like another developer sitting alongside you.
Yeah.
That works faster than I can put it.
That's actually the best. That's the tool I've heard the best about.
Wild.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting paid to say this. The things that I'm having it do for real on this platform is insane. I'm spending money, paying for it, but it's still. Like I can dream up things that I know that I want, and it does it. And I can tell it, you know what? There's three instances of, because over time, me and my buddy are both talking to it. So, hey, there's like three things I see hard coded in here. Can we, like I point out some stuff. I go, ooh, that's really good code review. Thanks. You're absolutely right. Let's clean this up. And it'll hey, can we work in a BDD way? Sure. Just write it like this, and then we'll use Playwright to run it. And yeah, sure. And I even did the game of life, not on the plane, but like the next day, I said, let me coerce it into saying I like Ruby, I like Cucumber, and I like RSpec.
Man.
Well, I don't really support those platforms, but here's how I'll do it for you. Holy cow!
Oh wow. See,
Okay.
yeah, you need to do a demo for us. Okay, next time.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, please do. That would be awesome.
Yeah, we could do that. It is freaking wild.
I used to have pre AI. I had a whole bunch of Replit instances up, and I was doing all kinds of things with them. But when they went with the AI, they also needed to start making some money because it's expensive stuff. And I think you only get 3 public projects, and then you have to pay to get the next one up. It's like, oh man.
Yeah, I don't
I didn't
remember.
actually ask for the AI. I'd be okay if I didn't have the AI, if I could still just, generate things and run them. But I'm now working with Warp locally on my machine, and that's also quite amazing.
Ooh, this is good.
But I kind of miss being able to do Replit.
Yeah, the new Agent 3 came out, I think maybe a week or two before. So I had bookmarked it, but then when I'm heading to Tampa, I thought, oh, let me look at this again. It's like, oh, it's got this new Agent 3, and it's wild. Yeah, so I think it's worth another look. And I don't know what the cost is, but for me, it's well worth.
I want to see a demo, please. That sounds awesome. I would love to see that.
Yeah,
It is.
yeah. I'll do one. Yeah.
So yeah, the things I have been consuming on the second book of the series, I read when I was a kid, 15 or so. Now I'm going back and listening again, and it's beautiful because I remember it helps. Earth War. It helps me remember being a kid because you consume something you haven't done in 40 years. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when I read this the first. It's just I enjoying the heck out of it. So Chronicles of Thomas Covenant fantasy series come out, I think late 70s. Excellent. I think it's probably one of the top 5 or 10 fantasy series I've ever read, and it, like everything else they did it to death. This first trilogy is good, second trilogy, and then they killed it. But first,
By the 10th one.
the beauty of this series, I'll just tell you what I told Jack last night, is that it's a magical world, which we're used to. You kind of think of Lord of the Rings, but the story starts with a guy who has leprosy, and he's basically dying, and he has no feeling, and he's downtrodden. His wife left him. He can't feel his extremities. The town hates him, and it's a dark, dark place. And he's had to learn all these skills just to keep from getting infections and dying. So then they drop him into this perhaps invented, perhaps a dream, perhaps a real magical world. And he just rejects every dang thing. He doesn't think it's real. He doesn't give a crap of what's going on. And it makes the story, it sells the story. It sells the story much better than if you'd start off with Frodo at the, Hobbitron or whatever. It's good book.
Huh.
And then the second one's Language Families of the World. And I have a weakness for language families. This is freaking awesome. I recommend this as well. So good stuff.
And that's as in like Germanic and
well,
Saxon,
even Germanic.
so
That's a language. Germanic's a language. So Paleo-Indo-European would be one. I think there's a Polynesian one. So these are like huge.
Oh,
most of the time, they're huge areas of the planet, but sometimes you'll have, language families, a group of dozens, maybe hundreds or more languages.
Huh.
So, Paleo-Indo-European kind of covers, 3/4 of the population because of Latin. But, it covers India. But then India has a bunch of other language families that aren't related to that at all. So it's the different I'll tell you the difference. For instance, Paleo-Indo-European, the languages we grew up with, are concerned with quantity. Like the dog goes to the store. I bought a dog. Many dogs, so plurality, quantity of things. Other languages, not so much. We do tense a lot more, past tense, future tense, imperfect. If I remember correctly, Chinese has no past tense, and they just do just fine without a past tense. Navajo has 3, I think, verbs. It's like come, do, and go. And then they somehow, come sit, come seat, go. It works just fine for them.
Oh, that is wild. I can see why that's curious to you, because that's crazy to think of that there's stuff that's so unlike ours.
Yes. Yeah, I think a lot of times this is the fault we fall into. This is the same conversation at the beginning. We feel as if because we were brought up a certain way, that reason and logic and like good thinking and all that's all related around quantity and syllogisms and all this stuff. But Chinese build just fine airplanes. They don't you don't. It's not related to intelligence. You don't need a special word to be intelligent.
True.
All right, guys. Appreciate you coming by.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank you, sir.
Good to see you both.
Yep. Have a good one.
Take care. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.